Game developers have been held in a high regard for a very long time now, and it is a career many can only dream of having. Waking up in the morning, grabbing a coffee, shooting off to the office, or nowadays staying at home and creating a game for thousands or even millions of gamers to enjoy. And when the game was a success, these companies and employees would be looked upon like celebrities. So, why is it we see more and more developers and community managers self sabotage a game they've been working on for years and ultimately ruin it for themselves and their colleagues? It's something that I've been trying to figure out for a little while now because these developers have got a position a lot of people would dream of having. And the trend seems to be getting worse. I don't think what's gone on at Obsidian in recent weeks with the art director has helped. It's kind of just shone the light on it even more. And gamers are just getting a little bit pissed off with how things are now. And we're going to cover that in this video. But before we do, if you're into gaming news, you want to be kept up to date with stuff, hit the like button and subscribe for more videos in the future. Firstly, I want to just go over social media briefly because I don't think it's helped matters at all. So gradually developers would start posting more, and this kind of normalized how players and a developer would interact with each other. And I think what's crept in over the years is a sense of entitlement for both parts. As gamers, which we all are, we know we are very fickle and we are quite entitled. Let's be real with ourselves. We are. If a developer's updated or a community manager updates us, we expected that 10 minutes ago. It's never enough. It's never quick enough. And we need to learn to be patient sometimes because I know nothing about game development. What I do know is it's extremely fucking hard. And I think a lot of players can forget that. It's extremely hard to navigate around faults because it's all codes and systems and stuff, which, yeah, I've got no clue about. So I think we need to kind of look at it in that grey area, not be so black and white about things. And what I mean by being professional is the developer holds a responsibility to be professional, not only for themselves, but for the company that employs them. And unfortunately, more and more often these days, we're not seeing this. We are seeing developers go totally off the script and kind of go out of their way to try and piss players off. Unfortunately, they need to sell their game and they need their game to be a success for them to stay in a job. And the more they keep going out of their way to piss players off or piss a certain section of players off or what they think is a certain section, they're just going to isolate more and more people because people are starting to get a bit annoyed with this shit. And ultimately, bad press, their game might not do as well. And we all know with what's gone on with the last couple of years in the gaming sphere, which isn't very nice, is people are losing their jobs. And none of us want that. But unfortunately, I think companies need to kind of get their employees on some courses because everything is so involved and it is kind of personal now with how social media is. I think they need a bit of training, and that's not me kind of being patronizing. That's me saying it must be really hard when you've got thousands of people, and quite a lot of people can be absolute twats and hell abuse at game developers, not knowing how difficult it is to be a developer because none of us have got a clue how to develop a game and how hard it is. But I do think they need to go on courses, maybe a little bit of training to handle certain situations, not to make themselves look bad. So if we take Matt Hansen, who is the art director over at Obsidian working on Avowed, he kind of hit the self-destruct button a few weeks ago and it really did piss players off. He was tweeting and reposting stuff what Elon Musk had been saying about pronouns. And if we look at the pictures right here, he says, "I wanted so badly to make him mad with my game and I cannot believe it actually happened. Just wait until you see the default. You said little shit." The next one, "With all sincerity, there is no such thing as just a fan. Y'all are the whole reason for making this stuff, and it's why we do everything we can to make the game as inclusive as possible. Pissing off the chuds is just a side benefit." And that was in reply to someone that posted to him. And then this one, "It's honestly deeply surreal to have the world's richest, shittiest boy whine about something I am making. I'm quite frankly giddy. I cannot think of a single person in the world I would rather irritate. Someone called Gigabear basically reposting this saying, just don't get mad when Avowed flops because you prioritized making gamers mad over bringing them joy. The issue here is Avowed is a product of Obsidian and not him, and by him saying my game, he is taking ownership of that. The slightly unhinged behaviour from him really did create some bad press as well, especially by claiming the game is extremely woke. And then there was this post here about crusty white dudes. Reminder to black artists out there who are looking for portfolio reviews or job advice, my DMs are open and you will always have my priority. We got too many crusty white dudes in this field. Please let me help you replace me one day. I want to go back to living in the woods. So as you can imagine, that didn't go down too well at all, like a lead balloon. The thing is, players will read these things literally, and when he states my game, he does risk upsetting his employer and fellow developers because players have and they will boycott the game over this, and they will let their disdain be known. And what will happen if Avowed kind of tanks a little bit because of this behavior? It can equate to job losses, which no one wants to see. No one wants to see their people losing their jobs. Well, I don't anyway. So this is the type of self-sabotaging behavior I'm on about. I just don't get this. If someone can explain this to me, please do. But I find it really hard to understand why you would just not keep things to yourself. Even Helldivers 2, the much loved live service game from Arrowhead, caught a lot of slack. And that was because Arrowhead kept nerfing stuff. They couldn't quite get the balancing patches right. Players were then wondering what's going on. The game's not as good anymore and you're implementing changes that we've not asked for. Players started backlashing, putting the game down, and numbers dropped. And this was even after Sony pulled the big fucking rug from underneath everyone's feet when they kind of said, you need a PSN account on Steam to play the game now, after everyone was playing it for a long time. Which in turn meant for the people in countries where you can't get a PSN account, you can't play the game. They had to issue refunds. Anyway, Sony ended up backpedaling in the end, lost a load of goodwill there. And then you've got Spitz, who was the Helldivers 2 community manager, posting all sorts of stuff over on the official Discord server right in the middle of this Sony rug pull with things like this. It's not like this is the first or even the 14th mainstream game to require a third-party account that takes a couple of minutes to create. But if it's a deal breaker to have to take 120 seconds out of your day to enter an email and password and then forget about it, change your Steam review and make your displeasure known on a platform where it matters. And he also responded to someone with this: I thought you were refunding and leaving. Is that a bad message? Not at all. But the point is, you're not acting professionally in that situation when you are on your very own company that pays your wages Discord server. You need to keep it professional, and this is what I mean by I think that relationship between developers and players has kind of got a bit lost somewhere, because I don't think that in this situation Spitz is really seeing that person as a paying customer. He's just seeing him as maybe a troll or something. We don't know what's gone on before that. But you have to keep it professional at all times. Spitz did end up getting sacked from Arrowhead, unfortunately, and it wasn't because of him talking to players like this. It was because he was telling everyone to leave bad reviews on Steam and get refunds. Ultimately, Sony didn't like that. They made the decision, lent on Arrowhead, and they had to get rid of him. But I do applaud him for, in the end, basically putting a middle finger up to Sony and kind of sticking up to the players. But the whole self-sabotaging kind of bit that we're talking about does come into it here, because in the midst of the Sony rug pull, Spitz really didn't act professionally enough, in my opinion. It's not just community managers or the directors working on these games that are getting themselves and their companies into trouble. It's the directors of these companies as well. Philippe Tremblay, the Ubisoft director, said earlier on this year that gamers should get comfortable with not owning their games. He basically wants to go down a subscription alleyway with things similar to Netflix, Apple TV and Amazon Prime. And I'll read you this little paragraph here. I still have 2 boxes of DVDs. I definitely understand the gamer's perspective with that. But as people embrace that model, they will see that these games will exist, the service will continue, and you'll be able to access them when you feel like it. That's reassuring. Well, I call bullshit, because recently Ubisoft have taken down X-Defiant, can't play that no more. And that is the problem. You've got things like Concord, that lasted barely 2 weeks and they've taken that offline. Suicide Squad called a Justice League, the latest update, the latest season, which is season 4, there's going to be no more. They've done an offline mode, but I will bet you my house that Warner Brothers will shut them servers off within the next 6 months, because Warner Brothers aren't in the business to be generous. They're in the business to make money, and servers cost money. This isn't good press for a company like Ubisoft, who have had a pretty turbulent 12 months, especially with Assassin's Creed and the potential takeover. So again, he didn't do his company or himself any favors at all. And then we've got another big developer, Bungie. As we know, they got bought out by Sony. Over the past 18 months, they've made mass amounts of layoffs. Whilst doing so, their CEO, Pete Parsons, has been splashing the cash, literal millions, buying cars, while he's still taking bonuses. All of his directors are getting bonuses. But I'll tell you what, let's piss everyone else off. And that is the problem. You lose all your goodwill. There was massive uproar with that as well. Players were not happy. Bungie having to come out and make statements. Sony, in the end, wanting to take more control of the company, because let's face it, it's been run really piss poorly, and gamers don't like that. So on the flip side, you can get a connection with community managers and developers, but the people above, they'll just ruin all that hard work, and it all ties into this massive self-sabotage, which I just don't understand. I do understand that it's a corporate world, and I understand how business works, but the games industry is huge. It's worth billions. And I just think at the end of the day, these people are making so much money, they can't be this stupid. But I do feel, unfortunately, it all lays down to people's ideals and ideologies. And I think that's just being thrusted from all angles, really. You get it from directors, CEOs, community managers, developers, and gamers themselves. Everyone's got their own ideals, and that is not helping. There needs to be a real separation. There needs to be a connection, obviously, with your community, but I think there just needs to be that professional line which you need to walk down as well. If you do have an ideal or an ideology or anything like that, I don't think that should get in the way of the game you are making, because at the end of the day, you are producing a product to sell which should be entertaining and cut everything out of. And I think people can let their personal situations get involved, especially when it goes down the route of community managers having a bad day. Let's take it out on the gamer. That isn't going to work these days, especially with social media. I think right now, developers, community managers, they do need some training with this. Absolutely. CEOs are just, I don't know with them. You're not going to do anything with them. They're just going to take all the money in the world, keep filling up their pockets so they can buy their cars, and people like Felipe Tremblay, they'll just make stupid decisions so they can just get more money from us. But developers, community managers, it wouldn't hurt just to do a couple of courses of how to manage people, because you do need to manage gamers sometimes. If someone is giving it to you, trolling you, you need to be able to learn to step away from that, because it could tank your game. But guys, do me a favor and let me know your thoughts and feelings down below in the comment section. And don't forget to like and subscribe as well. But as always, take care, and I'll see you in the next video.